Right. Hello, everybody. We're on a little giggle to ourselves.
Hello.
If you're not aware of this wonderful person, it's Nicola White from Nicola White's Mudlarking. Hello, Nicola.
Hello. Hello, Dan.
Obviously, I confess to being a fanboy, and I'm very fortunate on this podcast that I get to meet incredible people that I've been watching. And your channel, especially, I've been watching for a while, and we sort of talked off camera about one of my favourite episodes of yours is the dog, the pipe. Well, that's right. Wasn't it?
Yes,
Clay
that's
pipe dog,
right.
which is actually quite an early episode for you, I suppose, really,
It
in that
is.
regard. Yeah. But I'm so grateful for you to be here, and I'm very happy. Well, for me to be invited over to your beautiful place. If you're not, obviously, this is quite familiar to people who watch your channel. The background of this,
Yeah, if you do watch my videos, and if you don't, why not?
please.
If you do watch them, yeah, this is the general backdrop that you will see in the second half of the video.
I have so many questions to ask you, but
Fire
I'm going to
away.
pace myself with them because it is a podcast and we want to be relaxed as possible. But I suppose the first thing I want to ask you is the definition of mudlarking, first off, because I want to hear it from your perspective, because it's such a beautiful word, actually, to
is,
sort of
isn't it?
describe, isn't it? It's very sort of casual type of, like, you know, wind in the willows type of, you know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
can imagine like mudlarking in the background. But what is it really?
Well, the original mudlarks were Victorian, pre-Victorian even. They were often young children. Old ladies as well were reported to be mudlarking around. They were looking for anything they could find, really, to sell. Mudlarks were very poor, poorest of the poor in society. You wouldn't aspire to be one. So they'd be down there, mostly in their bare feet, up to their knees in mud at low tide, looking for things that might have dropped off of barges, a piece of rope, coal, bits of metal, anything really. And often at low tide, you would see them scurrying around then, and you know, with their clothes just covered in mud.
Was the idea they could sell then, and they could, or could they?
Well, that's what they're doing. They're trying to
Yeah.
find things that they can get
Yeah.
some money for, so that they can take it home generally and feed their families. And they wouldn't be averse to trying to steal a few things off of barges, maybe
No.
at low tide as well. But it was a very, very cold, muddy, poor existence.
Because you wouldn't have had Wellingtons or anything like that
No,
to keep you dry. You would have got mud, like
no,
you would have
you
got really
wouldn't.
muddy and very wet, and obviously you probably pick up quite a lot of disease, probably because of the fact that the sewage and all that lot probably got. I can imagine it being a
was,
little bit of a
not pleasant.
So I suppose within that, then, like, it seems to have taken off quite a lot on YouTube now. I've noticed that there are lots of channels popping up here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice because I think actually in this instance, I think that it's a beautiful thing because no two videos from anybody's channel are going to be the same because you're going to find different things all the time, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. And everybody's got a different perspective, a different way of filming, I suppose.
And the other thing that I've got involved in watching at the moment is magnet fishing.
Oh, yes.
Because I know
I
you've
have done
tried
a bit
that.
of
I was
that.
going to
Yeah,
say
I
that
have.
as well.
I've been out with the peaky dippers who are excellent,
Great
I have
name,
to
isn't
say. Yeah.
But I can imagine that being quite addictive, probably for the wrong reasons, because I can imagine, well, I've seen a lot of things they pick up are quite more modern and more a bit like, oh, blimey, like weapons and, oh, blimey. But what I wanted to obviously ask you, for most people out there, is really how did you start, like, really picking this up? Because obviously, probably at the beginning of your channel, it's quite more of a casual sort of affair, really, probably, I can imagine. But yeah, tell us about how it all started, really.
Well, I moved up to London from Cornwall in the late 1990s. And so I ended up living in New Cross Gate, not too far from Greenwich. And this was really because New Cross Gate was the cheapest place in Loot at that time, the magazine Loot, that I found somewhere that I could live, that I could afford. So I ended up living in New Cross Gate. And then I discovered Greenwich, and it was really nice because it's like kind of like a seaside town. And so it was almost like a replacement Cornwall for me. And I found myself going down onto the foreshore at low tide. I discovered these steps and found bits of pottery and glass. And at home in Cornwall, I'd often be collecting things like that to make pictures and things. So it started that way, just picking up pottery and glass. And then I found a coin one day, and that really grasped my imagination, because I thought, oh, who dropped this? You know, maybe 100 years ago, and I'm the first person to touch it.
Yeah.
So it went on from there. And then I got my permit, my mudlarking permit. And I just started to go down as often as I could. And then one day I filmed on the foreshore, just very briefly, some of the things I'd found. And I don't even know why I uploaded it to YouTube, but quite a few people enjoyed it. So I
Yeah.
carried on from there, and then my channel just really evolved naturally, and I never ever had the intention of starting one.
Because I think, actually, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I remember quite distinctly your channel probably, if Mud, obviously your title was Mudlarking in the title, but I remember distinctly that yours was one of the sort of like channels that really opened up people's eyes to mudlarking. I know there was other channels that subsequently were doing it, and there were people, obviously, people mudlarking anyway, regardless of filming. But I think your channel really, for me anyway, when it came out, I was like, have I not come across this before? Have I not seen this before? And like I said, we've all been guilty of going onto like a shoreline and picking up little things and going, oh, I wonder where that could have come from and stuff like this. And I can imagine from your background in Cornwall, that was like beautiful. Some of the beats and some of the finds you probably had. But moving forward from that, really, I mean, do you find it quite like a form of catharsis in a strange way when you sort of go through it and you find these beautiful things and you're like, you never know what you're going to find the next time around? Is there that form of like...
Yeah, there is definitely that. It's a hugely relaxing experience. It's like a combination of different things. You know, you've got the anticipation when you're ready to go down to the river. You know, I keep a note of tides, you know, and if it's particularly low tides, then that's going to be very exciting. And you get down there and it's very mindful as well. When you're just searching around in the mud, you're very much in the moment. So it's like a bit of moving meditation, and you've got the water sounds, you know, the crunch of the gravel or the splashing in the mud. And, you know, you've got that added bonus that you might actually find something that you can research.
And obviously now I suppose there's quite a good community now built around that, and obviously through YouTube I suppose it gives people more of an opportunity to communicate with other like-minded people and other people who are really interested in that type of thing. I mean, has that helped you going along, moving forward with YouTube and the idea?
I think YouTube, it's more Instagram really. I think that there's a huge community of mudlarks on Instagram that post their finds. There are a few channels obviously on YouTube. Simon Bourne, for example, Sci-Finds is one of the larger ones. But I think really it's exploded a little bit all over social media, especially even TikTok now as well, and Instagram. And of course, you know, books have been written about it as well. So it's kind of really reached audiences abroad, whereas I suppose years ago, before Instagram and YouTube and what have you, there wasn't such an awareness.
Because what you've done as well, which is brilliant, which is you created some art from this as well, which we had a look at.
Yes,
and I was just blown away by that. I was like, this is incredible. It was I'll probably take a picture if that's all right, but as you'll see now, it's like a fish made up of lighters with a pacifier as the eye.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's some really good stuff there. And you've created...
Yes, that's right. Well, when I go out mudlarking or walking along the Thames estuary, there's a huge amount of plastic. You know, sometimes there's more one day than other days. But I think a good way to raise awareness of that plastic is to create something with it, and then people can realise just how much plastic pollution there is. And you turn something like a disposable lighter, there's, I don't know, well over 100 there, into a fish, and it's quite shocking, but it brings home how much we throw away.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate that. Within that, I mean, it's quite sort of like, it does definitely have a powerful statement, because that's also modern rubbish, really, in regards of historical context and stuff. And to turn it into something like that and to raise awareness to it is actually really brilliant. And I think that obviously I just find it fascinating, because I love art as well. I love modern art, and I like the point of if it has a message to it, or more power to it, really. But I'm going to ask you, we're going to jump in early here because I'm quite curious. But you're going to forgive me for saying this, but what is the best find you've ever had? I know, I've got to do it. I'm so saying it for the people out there, but
it's such a difficult question, because you know, one day something might be my favourite, the next day it might be something else. I suppose a lot of my favourite finds are finds that have a name on it, either the name of a person or a place, that I can then really research the backstory to it, and it can reveal the life of somebody or you know, an event from the past. So one of my favourite finds, which I found I think on Easter Day a few years ago, is a lovely old pewter tavern mug
Yeah.
Very squashed, but in one piece with the name James Burrows engraved on it, from the Rose and Crown, Lower Thames Street. And so this for me was a dream find, because of course I can look up James Burrows. I use the newspaper archives a lot, and came across some information about him, and so it brings James Burrows and other people that were associated with James Burrows and the Rose and Crown alive for a while.
How brilliant. Is there an element of like, what do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy the act of finding it, or do you enjoy the act of researching it more? Or is it basically the same?
I think it's all wonderfully enjoyable. I mean, and in all weathers as well. There's just something just wonderful about wandering around looking for fragments of the past. And then researching it is also very exciting, I have to admit. And then being able to share it with lots of people around the world, that's just a real bonus for me. But, I do love getting my wellies on and going down there. And it's lucky that the tide comes in, because, at least then we have to go home. Because if not, I could just see a lot of mudlarks would just keep down on the river all the
That's
time.
actually a really good point, because you've reminded me, really, you are limited to the tide.
You
really are.
And it's lucky, really, because if not, we could just be wandering around for hours and hours and hours.
I suppose adding on to that, then, really, obviously, with the research and stuff, do you feel you've got into a sort of process, like almost like via osmosis, the idea that you've got into a routine now? The moment you find this, I know I can use this source, or I can go to this, or I can go through that? Or is it kind of like, do you still have to go, I might have to try something new this time to research into it?
Well, obviously we've got so much information at our fingertips now with the internet, but some finds, I might run by a mudlarking friend, because there's a huge amount of hive mind knowledge,
of course.
like on Instagram, other YouTubers, for example. But, I tend to use a lot of ancestry sites, and also newspaper archives are great. And even the Internet Archive as well. Lots of different, London archives. There's so many places where you can find information now. We're so, so lucky, obviously. And I love books as well. I have a massive library full of history books. So we also can't forget the humble book.
I think, because I'm a big book collector as well, and especially when it comes to like folklore and stuff. That's really where my book collection is probably more firmly based, because I love, obviously you're in Cornwall, so folklore is like rabid down there, but I just love reading that, because it's those stories, it's that connection with people's past of storytelling and moving forward within that. I suppose the other obvious question, if it is obvious, is, are you surprised that, like, even now you're still finding clay pipes, and you're still, like, how many more clay pipes are there that need to be found?
I know. Well, it's true. It's true. There's always clay pipes popping up, and I do have a very large collection, as you've seen.
Yeah.
But thousands and thousands and thousands of people smoked, I suppose, and so that's what we're seeing: the remnants of these pipes that people smoked all those years ago.
I suppose the moment it snaps off or breaks, then they will just discard it, won't they? Really,
that's right. And so I think we've got many years to come of pipes, and the Thames mud protects them very nicely, in a nice cosy cocoon until they're ready to come out. And I've seen no let up in the amount of pipes.
Is there a specific type of I don't know, really? Obviously, you mentioned like pewter, sort of like tankards and stuff like that. But is there a specific thing that you see more than most when you go mudlarking? Is there a specific, like, where is it? Do you see a lot more clay pipes than you do, I don't know, pottery, or is it, know what I mean? Like,
there's a lot of, or when you go down onto the foreshore, you're likely to find a lot of clay pipe stems. When you get your eye in, you'll start seeing all over the place. Pipe stems, lots of pottery. It really depends where you go on the Thames, because the things we find tend to reflect the activities that went on along that part of the Thames. So, certainly in central London, when you go down onto the foreshore, there's lots of pipe stems, there's pottery, there's oyster shells, lots of shells, because people used to eat them, from Roman times up to Victorian times, Tudors as well. A lot of discarded shells and animal bones as well. But we also find a fair amount of buttons. That's another thing which keep popping up.
Yeah.
So there's a variety of.
I'm still always amazed that you get to, obviously behind you, obviously that you get to see bottles that still intact, especially if they're
know.
old, and it's like that's really impressive. That how has that survived? More
Well,
importantly,
again,
you
it's
know.
the mud. You know, it's been covered up by this anaerobic, very thick mud, and it's just
Yeah.
kept it like a time capsule, really, very safe.
Within that, I mean, I wanted to just move on and talk about obviously permits and
Oh, yeah.
rules
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like this. Now, obviously, forgive my naivety on this because it's probably one of the exceptional things we're going to talk about, which I don't understand at all, and I'm not, I mean, so feel free to just sort of educate me as best as possible. But you obviously, basic law is you have to have a permit.
Yeah, you have to have a permit from the Port of London Authority to mudlark on the tidal Thames.
Yeah.
And so there has been a huge explosion in interest. I guess so many more people are aware of mudlarking now. And so they opened up the permit scheme a couple of years ago, and there was such a huge response that now there is a very big waiting list. And so they've
Right.
actually closed
Okay.
the permit application
Wow,
process
okay.
at the moment until there's less of a waiting list, because they capped it, I believe, at 4,000 permits. And I believe they had a waiting list of about 10,000. And now the permits they issue just last for 1 year, unless you
Renew.
you can meet certain conditions.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because forgive my naivety, because that was part of the next question I was going to ask you. Like, I mean, how long does the permit last? Yeah, can you just obviously renew it? How does it work?
You used to be able to renew it. I've got a creative permit, which allows me to create artwork with my non-historically significant finds or finds of no inherent monetary value. They're valid for a year, and then you apply to renew them. Most people have standard permits, which last a year, and then if they can meet certain criteria, they could try and renew them. And then you've got the Society of Thames Mudlarks, and there's just 50 of them, and they have diggers' licences.
Oh, okay. Do you obviously that's specifically the Thames, we're assuming, but do you have to have permits around any other places really? I mean, obviously like River Medway, for example.
Well, that I don't know. It's not the Thames, so it's not the PLA's
No.
jurisdiction. So I don't know exactly what the situation is there. That's my honest.
But you've been exploring.
I have. I do go exploring
there.
and it's great. I love the River Medway, but I'm not sure they have I don't think they have a permit system like the Thames. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Do you always feel comfortable by the sea?
Yeah,
Is that just
I
it?
do.
Is it just really?
Yeah, I like being close to water,
Yeah.
definitely. Maybe because I grew up next to water. I also have a water sign.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, water's part of my life.
I love it. I mean, we went to Cornwall in the summer last year, and the coastline down there is just remarkable. But yet, then the irony is for me, being a Kent lad, always growing up in Kent, I was talking to someone the other day, and he's a naturist, and he can like conservation stuff. And I told him, like, I forget how diverse our Kent coastline is. You know what I mean? From the White Cliffs of Dover all the way through to Dungeness with the sort of like natural beach. And you sort of think to yourself, I wonder whatever gets washed up. You know, we see like shipwrecks, old ones, like in the Medway and stuff like this, but you wonder, like, if you just spent a bit of time just really looking through that, like, I wonder what you could sort of like pick out and stuff. Because, yeah, for me as a kid, I just always remember just, you know, when you're a kid, you might find something. And most of the time it was like nature and wildlife for me. So it'd be like those dogfish eggs or whatever they were and stuff like that.
Mermaid's purses.
Mermaid's purses.
I've got some of those somewhere.
but it was just so beautiful to just sort of like look at that. And I think sometimes we sort of like, we get to a stage in our life where we lose that momentum and then we never go back to it. That innocence has gone of like discovery and exploring. And I think what mudlarking does, in my opinion, as an outsider, it's just this sort of beautiful thing of like, you found that. Nobody can take that away from you. What you found is beautiful. And like I said, if it's got an inscription or something else, that's a personable thing. That's like, yeah, that just makes it even more, doesn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, I always loved collecting things as a child and looking for things. I grew up on a little farm, and so even things like snail shells, and I used to like identifying mushrooms and toasters and things. I've always had that love of just going off and exploring, looking at bugs and things like that. So it's really just carried on into my adult life, I suppose.
Do you ever see younger people mudlarking and stuff and sort of feel like, oh, that's quite nice because there's newer generations that are going to hopefully maybe be taking up that mantle a little bit more? And, you know.
Yeah, I do. And I hear from a lot of children, a lot of youngsters about how much they're inspired by mudlarking.
See, that must be so amazing, especially your level of like to me fame. Excuse me, but but especially your level of fame in terms of YouTube, because in terms of the fact that it must be so nice that you get the opportunity because you're reaching out to so many people, obviously on different media formats as well, but that you're actually getting that opportunity that people will look at your channel and go, I think I could give that a go, maybe have a look at that. Do you know what I mean? And just sort of like maybe just then look into more detailed things of getting a permit or something like that. Or more importantly, even if they're not from London, that they can do their own coastline and have a look and see what they can
Yeah,
find.
absolutely. You know, beaches, fields, people do field walking, bottle dumps, you know, there's all sorts of places where even the pavement, you don't know what you're going to find. Once a mudlark, always a mudlark. I always find myself looking down for stuff.
Do you feel like your eyes are just completely like hawks? They've just sort of like, you know, they've really honed in now.
Always looking. But you have to remember to look up sometimes because then you can see the stars as well. But, you know, as a mudlark, you're always generally looking down.
What is, I've got to ask you, Brie, has there ever been a time when you've been potentially, dangerous, quite a strong word, but have you ever been caught out at all or ever been stuck in the mud?
There's a couple of times where I've, you know, got a little bit stuck and had a slight panic for a while. You have to be very careful because the Thames is can be a dangerous place. You have to be aware of your tides and cut-off points and things like that. And sometimes you can be walking along the mud and then there's an area that is even more sinky than the other parts. And so you have to be very aware of your surroundings. So yes, once I did get a little bit stuck, but luckily got myself out of it. I think the key is just always to just be very aware of the tides, make sure you know how you're going to get out and don't take any risks. Have
you ever found anything dangerous? Do you know what I mean? Like live ammunition?
Yeah, I found
stuff like that from memory.
I found an unexploded hand grenade back in 2016 in Greenwich.
As you do.
Yeah, I've actually got the footage of it being detonated by the ordnance squad. The police came and had a look, and then they called the ordnance guys, and they came and they blew it up. Yeah, so it was probably issued to the Home Guard during World War II, and then maybe after the war just thrown into the river.
I mean, it's like I said, the stories that you tell are absolutely fascinating. I was going to ask you, I suppose probably moving forward now, I mean, are there any things that you've got obviously in the pipeline moving forward with not only the channel, but obviously with mudlarking in general?
Well, I mean, I'm just going to continue going mudlarking. You never know what you're going to find. I think it's that excitement of the unknown, what might be out there waiting for you. So I'm just going to be continuing doing that really, and researching and sharing with my viewers. I've also been delving into a bit of market larking as well in Deptford, and uncovering some pretty good social history there. So I'm also going to do a little bit of work on that. But I also want to continue doing more of my art. The trouble is, I've got so many things I want to do that it's hard to know where to start, really.
Do you feel like that's the sort of creative part of your brain that sort of really kicks in, and then it just sort of like, it's hard to sort of, it's trying to find that balance, isn't it, really, between like what you do and what, because it's, for you, I suppose, is it now gone beyond a passion, mudlarking, if that makes sense, or do you still sort of hold back a little bit and go, no, I really enjoy, you know what I mean, before it goes a little bit,
I mean, it's just I'm very happy that it's a passion of mine. I don't think it's gone over the top or anything. I think it's, it gives me great joy.
Yeah.
It gives a lot of people joy, and so, yeah, I love it.
I genuinely enjoy watching it. And like I said, Nicola, I'm so grateful for this. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about with any of this today?
I'm trying to think. No, I think that we've covered it. I mean, you know, whenever I talk to people about mudlarking, I sort of emphasise that it's imagination that can bring objects alive. You know, and there's Ivan Noel Hume, who wrote Treasure in the Thames, and he was an archaeologist like in the 60s, 70s. He said, you know, the Thames is not just full of tangible objects, it also contains memories of people and events. And I think that's really beautiful, and it's exactly that, really. And he also says each object is a tinder to light the spark of the imagination, or a spark to light the tinder of imagination, something like that. But what I'm saying is, you know, you can find something and it's just essentially an object, but it's being able to imagine whose hands it was in 200, 300, 1,000 years ago. And it just, you know, it's just wonderful for your imagination. And I think that's one reason why so many people are inspired by it.
Yeah, because anybody could do it. That's basically it, isn't it? I mean, one actual final question, which I neglected to ask you beforehand: if there was anywhere in the world that you wanted to do mudlarking, or if you felt there was any specific spot that you'd think, oh, I'd love to maybe just go there, where would it be?
Oh gosh, that's a question. Well, you have to be careful because not everywhere takes kindly to you searching around.
No.
I mean, as we've seen in the news, people could be put into prison if they pick up bits of pottery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have to be very careful. So you have to be aware of the rules. So to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure. I mean, it would be wonderful to search in the River Seine, wouldn't it? But unlike us, you see, the Seine is not tidal, so who knows what treasures are like beneath the River Seine.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm always, like I said, since watching your channel many moons ago now, it feels like I do, when we for example go to like a historic site by the coast.
Yeah.
We're very conscious of looking down on the ground to see if anything has been washed up, and just to sort of see if it can collate to anything we find above, you know what I mean, like above ground, and go, well, I wonder if that's like, especially if it's World War II, for example, if we find a bit of barbed wire or something that might have been used as a bit on the cliff's edge for fortification or something similar to that. And I really do think that a channel like yours especially does make you really remind yourselves of actually how much the sea and the water can just bring these beautiful gems to the surface, really, I suppose. Thank you so much.
Oh, my great pleasure. Well,
really,
thank you
really appreciate this.
for coming along to meet me. Like I said, I recalled watching one of your videos, which I really enjoyed. So we'll have to do, maybe we could do a collaboration.
I think we should. We've put it down on camera now, so we can't. Yeah, we can't do it.
That would be great.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. I mean, it was amazing because I mean, I just want to shout out as well to Beyond the Point.
Yes.
Good to see, glad to see you. I know very well, and obviously we've done a fair bit in the past. Obviously, because that was quite funny. Because when I saw that video with you two, I was like, no way. So
I had a really good time with Beyond the Point. And they are so knowledgeable.
Yeah,
and they do such detailed research about everything.
Well, they go back to what I was sort of like talking about, was that because they're younger, they're like a younger generation, let's just say, that it's nice to see that generation has got the enthusiasm and the sort of notion to talk about history, especially in their own county of Essex. I mean, you know, it's so refreshing when we first spoke to each other a fair few years ago now, and I was like, wow, these guys are quite young, but they really want to do something. And it's not only that they do it because they want to share the stories. And like I said, and I think it was a really nice collaboration that you did, because it was really just sort of, it's all history, isn't it? It just depends how you find it, is probably the magical thing. It's not like what our channel does, which is obvious stuff, like, you know, it's stuff that stares you in the face, like a bunk or a pillbox that you can just explore and it's huge. It's the tiniest things sometimes, these tiny little things that can tell just as much of an interesting story. And I've always said on my channel especially that I actually sometimes the smaller sites are probably the more interesting historically. They don't have to be that big to tell an incredible story, I suppose. But especially on your minutiae of the things that you find, it's just so interesting. But no, thank you so much. We'll put all the links down below, so you can feel free to check. And obviously, writing some comments and stuff, because obviously if it wasn't for channels like yours, it wouldn't, it shines an extra aspect on history and historical exploration, and obviously the wonderful artwork that you do as well, which I love. Love the artwork that was behind that. Was so good. But thank you so much.
Thank you very much for coming.
Really
I've
appreciate
had a
it.
wonderful time.
And
Thank
we'll
you for watching, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And hopefully we'll meet up very soon, and we'll get to have like more of a, I can get to geek out a little bit more and actually see stuff. And if I found something, oh wow. No, but thank you so much. Take care, everybody. In more words of Phoenix history, because history matters. Much love to all of you out there. Hopefully you really enjoyed this podcast. Feel free to check all the links down below. Thank you, Nicola, for your time. It was amazing. All right, take care, everybody. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye.